Every big hero has an arch nemesis. Batman and the Joker, Superman and Lex Luthor, but who does Godzilla have? Many would argue Kong, but that's more of a recent thing for the MonsterVerse. Some say Mechagodzilla, but I would say there's another bigger enemy to Godzilla. King Ghidorah. Ghidorah was introduced in 1964's Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, where Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra had to put aside their differences to save the Earth. This isn't the topic of today's video, however. Today we're looking at its sequel, Invasion of Astro Monster, otherwise known as Godzilla vs. Monster Zero, which is how I'll be referring to this movie from now on. Godzilla vs. Monster Zero was released in 1965. Created by the Godzilla series Showa Big 4, director Ishiro Honda, writer Shinichi Sekizawa, special effects director Eiji Tsuburaya, and composer Akira Ifukube. The film stars some pretty big names for the Godzilla series: Akira Takarada as Kazuo Fuji, Nick Adams as Glenn, Kumi Mizuno as Miss Namikawa, Keiko Sawai as Harumi Fuji, Jun Tazaki as Dr. Sakurai, Akira Kubo as Tetsuo Terry, and Yoshio Tsuchiya as the controller of Planet X. The film follows Fuji and Glenn as they try to solve the mystery of what Planet X is planning after the Earth lends them the might of Godzilla and Rodan to fight King Ghidorah. This one is actually pretty notable, as it was a co-production between US studio United Pictures of America and Toho. It was made alongside a few other Toho classics to be released theatrically in both the US and Japan, hence the use of American actors in some of these old Toho classic movies, like Nick Adams in this one. Godzilla vs. Monster Zero is one of my childhood movies. I grew up watching this movie, and it was probably one of the first ones I actually watched. I've heard mixed opinions on this one, with many saying it's formulaic and boring, and others like myself who think this one's a fun time. I've always actually really liked this movie, and it was honestly one of my favorites growing up. And I noticed the mixed opinions is a bit of a trend with Showa-era Godzilla movies. Godzilla vs. Monster Zero is such a fun time. It has a good old 1960s sci-fi feel with the retro-futuristic rockets and spacesuits, and the funky alien outfits are dorky but very charming. I like the focus on astronauts, and the Exilians are fun villains. The film has a very fun premise as well, with the Exilians feigning a vulnerability to get Godzilla and Rodan, only to then use Godzilla and Rodan in their conquest on Earth. The film has a very cool ending that ties together both the A and B plots with the use of Tetsuo's invention to defeat the Exilians. The monster action, while campy and cheesy, is very fun. The fights lean heavily into that camp, and it just works in the film's favor, allowing for some fun and wacky fights. I love the Exilians themselves. They have this cold and calculated feel. They know how to perfectly exploit humanity and used it to their advantage, but they were also cocky and didn't think that we could find a way to stop them. They're one of my favorite villains in the Godzilla franchise, and as I said earlier, I like their dorky outfits. Now, many people tend to dislike when Godzilla movies have any semblance of goofy or cheesiness or fun, but I love it when they do that, and this movie has plenty of it, from moments like Godzilla doing his victory dance or Rodan using Godzilla as a battering ram on King Ghidorah. They're fun moments. The Planet X set design is also fun. In fact, the whole fight on Planet X is such a highlight in this movie. Now, this movie isn't without its faults. For as much as I may be praising this one, it does have some issues. The characters don't really get any sort of development, they're just mostly archetypes. The soundtrack, while definitely good, feels very generic and repetitive. One of Ifukube's best works. And yeah, while the movie is very fun, it does take some time to get to the fun parts, and then it just kind of slows down between the Planet X fight and the final fight between the three monsters. The choice of monsters itself is also just a little boring. It's just the Ghidorah, the three-headed monster cast, without Mothra. Now, this is a fun movie, and if you're a fan of 60s sci-fi, definitely check this one out.